Discover the incredible truth. Scarred waitress transformed into a lost heiress revealed by a CEO. Sarah poured a cup of coffee, the steam rising like memories from a past she'd rather forget. The neon signs flickered to life outside, a stark contrast to the lingering shadows of her childhood in foster care. Every ounce of determination she poured into her work as a waitress was driven by the hope of building a life of dignity. As she served plates of greasy comfort food, she often reflected on the warmth radiating from the families and elderly patrons, a warmth she once craved. Now it felt like home. Yet, just beneath the surface of her smile lay scars both inside and out, remnants of fights waged for a sense of belonging. When Daniel entered the diner, sharply dressed and seemingly out of place, she felt an immediate ping of unease. His polished demeanor stood in stark contrast to the working-class ambience she had cultivated. Yet, there was something in the way he ordered a cheeseburger and fries, as if savoring the simplicity of her world. As he took a seat by the window, Sarah hesitated at his table, feeling caught between two worlds: the gritty, honest life she knew and the polished, refined existence he represented. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel became a familiar face. Over coffee refills, they shared laughter and stories that felt like threads stitching their disparate lives together. But every time he smiled at her, she felt the weight of her scars tighten around her heart. Could a man like him ever truly understand her? Could he ever see past her worn-out apron and messy bun to the perseverance that defined her? The fear of revealing her truth clawed at her. If he saw the real Sarah, would he still sit in her diner, or would he vanish like her past? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then came that fateful evening. As the dinner rush slowed and laughter echoed through the diner, Sarah's life tilted on its axis when she stumbled upon a tattered envelope left behind by a lawyer, a name she had never known, a family she had never met. Inside, an astonishing revelation awaited. She was the lost heiress to a wealthy family. The foundation of her identity trembled as reality clashed with a past she thought she had escaped. Could this newfound wealth set her free, or would it chain her to expectations she'd never asked for? As the patrons continued their conversations, Sarah felt like she was caught in a hurricane of doubt. Daniel had become her anchor. Yet could he possibly understand the despair mingling with the thrill of this discovery? He urged her to confront the shadows of her past. But what if uncovering her lineage meant tearing apart the life she'd built at the diner? Just as her thoughts spiraled, she glanced down at the envelope, her heart racing, soaked in a mixture of anticipation and dread. Was she ready for this truth that might sever every connection she had fought to create? The weight of the photograph inside loomed over her, brimming with answers she feared to grasp, her future entangled in layers of complexity she had never anticipated. Sarah held her breath, poised on the edge of the unknown, torn between the life she cherished and the legacy she never wanted. The flickering diner lights hovered overhead like a watchful constellation, illuminating the envelope in Sarah's trembling grasp. She placed her coffee pot on the counter with a clatter that broke the rhythm of soft conversations around her. The mundane noise faded, amplifying the frantic beat of her heart as she meticulously examined the delicate parchment, her fingers trembling with uncertainty. Each crease of the paper felt like a hidden secret, the kind that could unravel her existence. What would it mean to claim her birthright, to step into a life of opulence she had only ever witnessed through television screens? The thought churned in her mind, battling with her instinctual desire for authenticity. She had spent countless hours scrapping through life, forging her identity with grit and resilience. The thought of abandoning that soft yet unyielding ache of determination for unfamiliar wealth felt like treason against the very essence of her being. "You okay?" Daniel's voice broke through her thoughts like a lifeline. He leaned against the counter, his expression a tapestry of concern and curiosity. His warm brown eyes met hers with an intensity that made her question her mask of invulnerability. She bit her lip, weighing the prospect of sharing this revelation, trying to pluck the right words from the tangled mess in her brain. Just some strange news, she finally managed, the words tasting as bitter as the coffee she served. How could she confess this depth without sounding naive? Fear gripped her, and she felt a wave of nausea crash upon her. His brow furrowed, and he leaned closer, as if her words could be unraveled from her gaze. You know you can tell me anything, right? The sincerity in his voice tightened the hold of self-doubt that had grown roots in her heart. If Daniel was to know her truth, he'd see her not as the hard-working waitress, but as a remnant of her past, a person cloaked in scars. Would that push him away, the way a thunderstorm drives away sunbathers? It's just I found this, she mumbled, awkwardly pushing the envelope across the counter towards him, the item feeling impossibly heavy in her pocket. I'm apparently part of a family I never knew. He picked up the envelope, only briefly scrutinizing it before locking his gaze back onto hers. Sarah, this is huge. Do you think you want to find out more? The word want rattled in her mind, contradictory to her reality. She had fought for stability, for a sense of agency against a backdrop of cold dependency. And now, potential inheritance floated in front of her like a mirage in the desert, both longing and dread piercing her heart. What if I lose everything I've built here? She whispered, her voice barely above the chatter of the diner. She threw a cautious glance around, as if her words might awaken lurking ghosts of her past. What if they expect something from me that I can't offer? Daniel stepped closer, his presence a steady anchor amidst the tumult. You deserve to explore this, Sarah. But you have to decide if it aligns with who you are now. A wave of emotion surged within her. As she straightened her back with defiance, the determination of her truth began to crystallize. I will stay true to myself, regardless of what they want. I can't let this change who I am. His smile sparked an ember of hope within her. She felt, for the first time in weeks, a hint of realization starting to settle. Her identity was an amalgamation of scars, dreams, and the capacity to redefine her narrative. She was more than her background. She was resilient and resourceful. The thought emboldened her, yet there remained an echo of uncertainty. Could she balance the tension between the life she led and the specter of wealth that loomed before her? With a newfound determination, she clenched her fists at her sides. The decision to embrace both worlds surged within her, earning a deep resolve. But as the thought settled, another emerged, darker and more confounding. What if uncovering her family's expectations meant facing someone who hid darker truths within that envelope? Someone who would claw back the reputation she was trying to forge? As the diner buzzed with life, Sarah felt an unsettling shift within herself. She was about to step into the duel of her life. The moment had come to confront her past once and for all. The warmth of the diner enveloped Sarah as she moved through the small space, but it felt different now. Each step echoed in her mind, a countdown to decisions yet to unfold. What had always been a sanctuary of routine transformed into a stage for contemplation, prompting her to reassess every moment she had spent here. The aroma of coffee and frying bacon could no longer distract her. The humdrum represented a life she was considering leaving behind. With Daniel's reassuring presence, she felt buoyed yet acutely aware of the weight of the envelope still in her pocket. It felt like a portal rather than a mere piece of paper. What lay ahead churned her stomach, a mix of anticipation and dread, a crossroads she hadn't expected to encounter. Sarah, Daniel's voice broke her reverie. He was filling mugs at the counter, and she stole a glance at him. There was a sincerity in his gaze, an invitation to explore the depths of her turmoil. I know you want to keep this close to your heart, but what if facing the truth opens up possibilities you never considered? Possibilities. The word hung in the air, heavy and tantalizing. But what if those possibilities were tainted with strings she didn't want to untie? She felt a rush of skepticism, almost protective of the life she carved for herself. After her shift, she sat in the corner booth, the remnants of a cold slice of pie in front of her, untouched. The chatter of regulars was a soothing balm, but also a reminder of what she stood to lose. Somehow, she had become part of this community, a lifeline for others, and yet, untouched by the privilege of a family she never knew she belonged to. Her mind raced through memories. Each hardship, every triumph, crafted from sweat and tears, the journey that shaped her resilient spirit. She felt a tremor of fear, the inexorable thought that perhaps the family wouldn't want to acknowledge a girl forged in struggle. As if reading her thoughts, Daniel approached her booth, his brow creased with concern. You've got to address this. Whatever they want from you, honor, acceptance, approval, do you really think you need it to be whole? The violence of uncertainty rose within her. Part of Sarah wanted to fight back, to reject any expectation implied in the pursuit of wealth. Perhaps they held a truth that was not only foreign but terrifying. Yet the other part whispered that exploring this uncharted territory could mean reshaping her identity altogether. She could decide what kind of relationship to forge, or if she wanted one at all. She picked up the envelope and turned it over, her fingers following its contours like a lullaby, the papery surface cool to the touch. But who am I amidst them? She muttered, more to herself than to Daniel. Who you've always been. Just more aware, he replied, leaning closer, his calm demeanor driving the fear deep into her psyche. Decide who you want to be in response to them. You owe it to yourself, not anyone else. His words were steady, grounding. He was urging her on the precipice of self-discovery. With a deep breath, Sarah felt prepared to confront what she had long avoided. The envelope didn't have to signify a shift into a realm of excess. It could merely represent an expansion of self and exploration of her lineage without surrendering who she had fought to become. And yet, there lingered an undeniable tension. What if the truth resurrected buried sentiments and biological ties tied into emotions she had rather left untouched? As she leaned back in the booth, a new thought slipped through the veil of uncertainty. What if this pursuit led her face to face with the very darkness she had been trying to escape? The thought flared like an unexpected spark, warming her resolve while igniting a sense of dread. The moment of confrontation was growing closer. She needed to act, to be prepared. Making her decision wasn't a conclusion, but rather just the beginning. Would she embrace the layers unfolding before her, risking everything for the sake of truth? The confrontation was imminent, and she could feel its grip tighten. On her heart, as she stood, envelope clutched in a fist, an unfamiliar strength surged through her. The door swung open, and outside the diner, the world awaited to reveal itself. Would she let it? Before stepping into the unknown, she glanced back at Daniel, who met her gaze, his understanding reflected in those warm brown eyes. Ready? He asked, his voice a whisper over the bustling diner. Just then, a figure crossed her line of sight, a woman with a familiar air, the kind of presence that stole breath from her lungs. Could it be? A glance into her past, or perhaps her future? Sarah's heart raced, the need for answers crashing over her. The time had come to face the hidden truths of her lineage. The air outside the diner felt electric, charged with the weight of what was to come. Sarah took a hesitant step, her heart racing as she observed the woman walking purposefully toward her. There was something undeniably magnetic about her presence, an air of purpose that sent tendrils of apprehension curling around Sarah's mind. Who was this person? More importantly, what did she want? As the woman drew closer, the world around Sarah slipped away. It was just her and this stranger, suspended in a moment that felt both intimate and monumental. Her heart thumped loudly, mirroring the conflicting emotions rising within her: fear, curiosity, and a touch of hope. She had long learned to defend herself against the disappointments of the world, yet the flicker of potential connection ignited a yearning deep within her. Sarah, the woman said, stopping just a few feet away, an unexpected warmth lighting her face. It's you, isn't it? I've searched for you. For a split second, Sarah felt a flash of recognition, as if they were bound by a history she had yet to discover. But she quickly squished the impulse, the innate distrust honed by years of isolation bubbling to the surface. How do you know my name? She asked, her voice steadier than the uncertainty twisting inside her. With an unflinching gaze, the woman took a breath. My name is Charlotte. I'm here because you deserve to know the truth about your family. The words hung in the air like a shroud, dense with implications. Family. The very notion felt foreign yet tantalizing. Her fingers tightened around the envelope in her pocket, as if it contained not just answers, but the essence of her being. Family. Sarah echoed, her voice barely above a murmur. The word felt like a grenade, capable of dismantling everything she believed to be true. The idea of that elusive connection, the longing for belonging, simmered just beneath the surface of her apprehensive exterior. Charlotte stepped closer, her earnestness palpable. "Please, just listen. Your parents, they have been searching for you. There were complications surrounding your upbringing. They want to meet you." Sarah's chest constricted at the proposition, the air thick with her struggle to process the enormity of Charlotte's revelation. Her mind raced. What did it mean to be found? The weight of latent expectations, the remnants of her past, and the fears of rejection crowded her thoughts, each demanding acknowledgement. Why now? After all these years? She challenged, her voice edged with skepticism. "Because it's time," Charlotte replied softly. "They want to make amends. They want to hear your story, not just as their daughter, but as the person you have become." A swell of anger surged within Sarah. "You think this is my story to share? A life forged in hardship, only to be wrapped up in their narrative?" Anguish warred with desire within her. Each day had been a complete testament to her resilience, an unwavering stance against any notion of glamour or privilege. But what if this meeting was an opportunity, a chance to reclaim those narratives, her fractured lineage woven back together? As she grappled with herself, memories of regret lurked in the shadows. Perhaps there was room for a new identity, something grafted from the experience of two lives, the one she lived and the one that could have been. "Meet them," Charlotte urged gently. "You are not obligated to accept anything they offer. Just remember, you are in control of your story now." With the thoughts swimming in her mind, Sarah felt a deep tremor of power lashing through her. Control. For so long, she had been labeled survivor, outcast, waitress, yet now she stood at the threshold of defining the narrative. "I need time," she finally said, her voice firmer, echoing the determination growing within her. Charlotte nodded, respect glimmering in her eyes. "I understand. Take all the time you need. Just know that the door remains open for you." As Charlotte turned to leave, Sarah felt the weight of the envelope in her pocket shift under her fingers, a reminder that the choice lay solely in her hands. She could walk away into the familiar embrace of her isolated world or face the potential of a newfound lineage, a journey that promised understanding and connection. Suddenly, Sarah realized that the confrontation wasn't just about her family. It was also about her, who she had been and who she might yet become. The choices were layered, complex, and riddled with uncertainty. As she stood there, mulled by the possibilities, the roar of the diner faded into silence. Somewhere in the distance, an unresolved question lingered, teasing the edges of her resolve. What if she learned the truth only to discover a dark legacy waiting to ensnare her? Rousing from her thoughts, she stepped lightly away from the diner's entrance, fully aware that the next course of action would demand every ounce of bravery she had. The journey ahead was only beginning. Would she dare to follow the trail of her own blood? The streets stretched out before Sarah like an uncharted landscape, each step carrying her further from the diner and deeper into uncharted territory. The cool night air brushed against her face, invigorating yet daunting. Questions spiraled in her mind about her parents, the family she never knew, and the life she had lived apart from them. Would this be the moment everything changed? As she walked, Sarah grappled with the ghosts of her past, the memories that had so diligently woven themselves into the fabric of her identity. Each revelation from Charlotte had the power to reshape her understanding of self. Who was she without the labels of outcast and survivor? It felt as if she was standing at the edge of a cliff, with uncertainty cloaked in both opportunity and fear. She recalled the evening sun streaming through the grimy windows of the diner, casting shadows that danced off the worn-out booths and chipped countertops. That was a space where she had felt safe, albeit trapped within the confines of her own making. Yet, as meaningful as those walls were, they also felt stifling compared to the freedom that possibility promised. Each passing moment illuminated her choices as much as it darkened her fears. Back in the familiarity of her tiny apartment, Sarah let her fingers graze over the surface of the envelope still nestled in her pocket. What had driven her to hold on so tightly to a mundane existence for so long? Was it fear? Or perhaps a sense of misplaced loyalty to her past? A glance in the cracked mirror offered a fleeting image, one fractured but resilient, encompassed by uncertainty, eager for revelation. Restlessness bubbled to the surface. She needed clarity. Sitting on her worn plaid couch, she reached for the envelope, her fingers trembling in anticipation. She hesitated briefly, the weight of her decision crashing down on her. Should she look? Should she even open the Pandora's box that lay within? Closing her eyes, Sarah reminded herself of Charlotte's words. This was her narrative, and she had every right to shape it as she saw fit. With a surge of conviction, she tore the envelope open, revealing the documents inside. Flipping through pages that detailed her past names, dates, and addresses, flashes of emotions cascaded over her. Anguish and confusion morphed into determination. This was no ordinary set of papers. They were fragments of the life she had been denied, waiting for her to stitch them into something coherent. With each name she read, a question arose. What had their lives become? Did they mourn her absence, or had they moved on, weaving their own existence without her? The document detailing her parents' names fell against her palm, the ink now a tangible connection to the unknown. For years, she had steered clear of vulnerability, stifling her desire for closeness, fearing it would be met with further abandonment. But now the realization dawned: if she continued to turn away from them, she would remain shackled by questions that would haunt her. Rising from the couch, Sarah felt more than just the flicker of determination. She felt a kinship stirring within her, a burning urge to discovery that eclipsed her fears. What if they wanted to understand her, not just as their long-lost daughter, but as the resilient woman she had become? The idea infected her thoughts with possibility, merging hope with dread. Taking a deep breath, she made a decision. She would reach out to them. It felt terrifying yet exhilarating, a leap into an abyss where both light and shadow awaited. At that moment, a new question took shape in her mind. Would they even want to meet her? And what would it mean if they chose not to? As she paced the worn carpet in her living room, her tension flared, the simmering emotions skirting the surface of her resolve. As dusk turned to night, she was confronted with the realization that stepping into the unknown could lead her to more than just reconnection. It could lead to confrontation, possibly even to a reckoning with a legacy she had never known. Could the truth liberate her, or would it instead bind her with familial chains of expectations? Each answer would come with a cost, but she was determined to find out. The journey ahead was treacherous, yet within her beat the heart of someone ready to take a stand for herself, for the woman she had always been, and the possibilities that awaited her. The weight of action pressed down on her as she reached for her phone, a resolution burning fiercely within her. What was the first step? Where did she even begin? In that moment of decision, one thing became clear. The moment for truth was upon her. She was on the cusp of something profound. Would she step into the light, or retreat into the shadows once more? Sarah stood with the phone in her hand, thoughts moving with the frantic energy of a storm. The vibrations of her heart echoed in her ears, and her breath quickened. Each tap of her fingers against the screen felt alien, yet necessary, a pipeline to a reality she had barely dared to imagine. Who would she call? How would she frame the questions that haunted her, the questions woven into the fabric of her existence? The instinct to shatter the silence of her sanctuary, women with voices of the past, thrummed within her. The contact list felt like an anchor, yet she hovered over the blank space where connections to her family should exist. How could one reach out to shadows? She hesitated as the cursor blinked mockingly at her. Standing on the precipice, Sarah's mind raced, conjuring visions of her parents breathing, living, thriving in a world that had been so close yet so far. Fear gripped her, but underlying it was a fierce determination to alter her own narrative. This was hers to craft, untidy as it might be. An idea coalesced in her mind like the first wisps of dawn breaking through a dark night. Websites, social media, channels meant for finding long-lost connections. She could locate them without the direct offer of vulnerability. She could remain a ghost, lurking in the background until she was ready to confront them. This was familiar ground. The shadows were her element. With a newfound sense of control, Sarah shifted to her laptop, the screen flooding her dingy apartment with a cold blue light. She would unearth her heritage from the very internet that had delivered her fragments, the very tool that could bridge the chasm of years spent in silence. She began searching her parents' names, letting curiosity fuel the urgency coursing through her veins. What had they become? Were they still alive? Did they think of her? Names flitted across the screen, flickering identities of strangers who held her history. But it was more than that. Each one held the key to an unwritten chapter, to understanding who she was independently of survival instincts shaped by hardship. Her fingers glided over the keyboard, activating a quest to awaken the dormant parts of herself. As the search unraveled bits of information, names transformed into faces, faces morphed into lives. She discovered remnants of marriage, children, achievements. It struck her with bittersweet intensity. They had built something without her, yet there was no bitterness in the knowledge. It simply reinforced the enormity of what lay before her. Then, she stumbled upon a photograph. A family portrait that resonated with warmth, their smiles bright against a lush backdrop. And there, standing with arms draped around each other, was a version of her, one she had never known but somehow recognized. The likeness was undeniable. It might have been a mirage, but it filled her with a sense of belonging that had previously eluded her. Tears threatened to spill over as conflicting emotions churned within her, a mixture of rage, longing, and a stark realization of what she had been deprived of. This could be her family, and yet she had felt so alone for far too long. Tearing her gaze from the screen, Sarah grabbed a notepad, jotting down thoughts, forming a strategy. She needed to reach out, but a wave of doubt crashed against her resolve. What if they rejected her? What if her existence was nothing more than a burden? Those questions chased her like phantoms, but instead of stifling her, they ignited a flame within her. She would confront them regardless of the outcome. The truth was all she sought, and she would face it. The ache of uncertainty now pulsed with anticipation. She picked up her phone again, thumb hovering over the contact option. No, it was not enough to merely find names or faces. She needed to speak to them, to unlock the door to her past. As her husbandry of courage began to swell, one thought crystallized in her mind. The time had come to face the duality of her identity. Did she have the strength to embrace her lineage, or would the fear of facing them unravel her newfound determination? She took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. And as she dialed an unfamiliar number, an electric thrill surged through her. Her hand trembled slightly, but she pressed on, needing to know if the echoes of her past could belong to her future. Who would answer? Would they even recognize her call? The questions loomed, giving the moment an agonizing weight as the line rang on. The moment of truth was unfolding, and with it, the potential to find herself anew. The ringing reverberated in Sarah's ears, a haunting melody of anticipation and trepidation. Each pulse of sound matched the erratic beating of her heart, urging her to reconsider. Just when doubt threatened to snatch her resolve, the line clicked, and a voice broke through the void. Hello. It was a woman, uncertain yet open, a tone laden with the kind of curiosity that could only come from a family member reconnecting after such silence. Hi. This is Sarah, she stammered, anxiety coiling tightly in her chest. The pause that followed felt like ice forming in the spaces between her words. Silence hung heavy, conjuring images of rejection that clawed at her gut. Sorry, who are you again? A wave of heat washed over her before the chill of reality cut deeper. Her ambition to reconnect had collided with the stark realization of the distance, both emotional and relational, that years had woven between them. Sarah, she repeated, determination overriding hesitation. I'm your daughter. The admission hit her with unexpected force. Sarah's heart quaked, craving acknowledgement, yet fearing the thundering absence of familiarity. Wait, hold on. The voice shifted from confusion to alarm. I need a moment. That moment stretched long and thin, each second a taut thread of hope that threatened to snap. She could almost hear the gears turning in the woman's mind, spooling through a possibility that had been denied for so long. What did she want from this conversation? Closure? Validation? Or simply the chance to reclaim the pieces of herself that had long been lost? The question tethered her emotions in a precarious balance. Can you tell me how came the hesitant reply? How you know I'm your mother? Her chest tightened at the word. Mother. It felt both foreign and familiar, a title she had long craved but had yet to truly embrace. I found you online. I saw pictures. I'm your daughter. I know this is sudden, but I needed to reach out. Why now? Why after all this time? Each question pierced deeper, and Sarah gripped the phone tightly, rallying the remnants of her courage. Because I want to know who I am. I've spent my whole life feeling like a ghost, missing pieces everywhere. I thought maybe she faltered, her next words wavering on her lips. Maybe you could help me find them. Breath caught in her throat. Would her vulnerability awaken compassion or provoke defensiveness? Silence ensued again, yet this time it felt less suffocating and more filled with potential. What do you want, Sarah? I want to understand, she replied, heart racing at the prospect of connection. Understand our story, where you went, what happened, and if there's a place for me in your life. Do you really think it's that simple? The incredulity in her mother's voice was like steel. No, Sarah admitted, a small surrender to the reality that there were walls built from years of absence. But it has to start somewhere. As the conversation unfolded, Sarah laid bare her decades of questions, her hunger for belonging rooted in the soil of uncertainty. Each revelation exchanged erected fragile bridges, some swayed precariously, crumbling under the weight of raw emotion. This will take time, her mother finally conceded. You should know that our lives didn't exactly turn out the way you might fantasize. Time is okay. I just need a chance. With each tentative reply, Sarah discovered that her need for answers danced hand in hand with her mother's own fears and regrets, a generational tether they needed to untangle. In the days that followed, the phone calls became more frequent, painting a portrait of fragmented family dynamics. Yet just as she began to understand them, a chilling realization emerged: the crux of her mother's struggles also tied back to unanswered questions about her own choices. Together, they navigated their history, peeling back layers like delicate petals of a flower shrouded in frost, fresh wounds exposed to the air for the first time. But with each shared truth, Sarah felt an urge bubbling within her. What else lay beneath her own desires for acceptance? As they approached a more profound discussion of unfinished business, her mother spoke hesitantly. There's something you need to know about your father. Sarah's pulse quickened, the words hanging like a sword poised for its descent. Why now? Would the truth finally reveal the lingering shadows of her past, or plunge her deeper into uncertainty? Let me tell you everything. The invitation promised to shatter expectations, but clung dangerously close to an emotional cliff. Was she ready to leap? The silence enveloped Sarah like a thick fog as her mother's words lingered in the air, dangling with gravity over the conversation. The vibrant image of a family she had long envisioned began to fade, replaced by the looming question of her father's identity and the implications that came with it. Her heart thudded, not just with fear, but with an overwhelming longing for clarity, for understanding of her own narrative. What do you mean by that? Sarah's voice trembled, urgency cutting through the thick tension. Beneath the surface of her anxiety lay an unyielding determination to unveil the system of secrets that bound her family, however chaotic it seemed. There are things about him that could change your perspective entirely. Your father wasn't just some man who walked away. He has a past of his own, and consequences you deserve to know, her mother added, the tremor in her voice reminiscent of Sarah's shaking resolve. Swallowing down the knot in her throat, Sarah clenched the phone tighter, summoning every ounce of courage. She felt the weight of her life's disconnect based in this unfolding narrative, waiting for her to piece the fragments together. Please, Sarah begged, her voice steadier now, echoing the yearning that pulsated through her. I need to know who he was, who we both are. Are you sure? The question dropped with an almost hollow sound, yet held a flicker of discomfort. It might shatter everything you wish you knew. I've already felt shattered my whole life, she declared, a newfound clarity arising within her. It's time I finally understood all of it, the good and the bad. Her mother took a shaky breath, her hesitation evident. Within that pause, Sarah felt her own resolve strengthening, awakening a long-buried spirit of inquiry and tenacity. When we get into this, there's no going back, Sarah. Are you prepared to handle it? Yes, she affirmed, steeling herself against the unpredictable storm. With the barriers between them slowly dissolving, this was the moment she had desired, a quest not only for her identity, but an uncovering of deeply rooted truths. The conversation began, detailing a story fraught with betrayal, loss, and complexity, defining elements that haunted their family's history. As her mother shared the intricate web of relationships, Sarah could almost visualize the interlocking pieces of her heritage beginning to take shape. With each revelation, she re-examined moments in her life, her stubbornness, her fierce independence, all markers she had thought were merely personal traits now appeared linked to a larger narrative. She discovered his life imbued with choices, connections tied to wealth, and a looming shadow that resided within it. The details began to crystallize into an unsettling picture, yet instead of fear, what bubbled up within her was clarity and an overwhelming sense of direction. So, if my father was who I think he is, then it means you have options, her mother interrupted, lifting the weight of potential from the air. Those doors are open for you, but navigating them will require more than you might be prepared for. Suddenly, a distinct thought clawed its way into Sarah's mind. This wasn't just about understanding. This was about reclaiming her life, her destiny. What do you mean by options? She pressed, curiosity igniting a flicker of excitement. As her mother elaborated on the business empire her father had constructed, a realization swept over Sarah like wildfire. Each carefully crafted word unveiled a landscape of opportunity, an identity that had long been withheld from her under layers of obscured truths. Should she step into that world? Her mind raced as she mentally constructed plans. She envisioned herself not as the waitress trapped in anonymity, but as a woman who could rise into the legacy offered to her. Emotional tension fused with fervor, igniting an urge to assert herself in a way she had never considered. That's what I want, Sarah said, resoluteness reverberating in her tone. I'm ready to step into my life, my true life. Then it's time for a different kind of conversation, her mother said, her tone shifting, brimming with cautious optimism. But it also means confronting those who may not be ready for your return, including your father. A chill slithered down Sarah's spine. The roots of her existence were about to intertwine dangerously with those of the man she knew nothing about. Would she be ready for the confrontation that awaited, and more pressingly, the lineage of expectations that would arise with it? Let us do it, Sarah declared, her tone ignited with purpose. I'll face him. I'll face everything. As they wrapped up the call, breadth of the revelation washed over her, leaving her exhilarated yet anxious. What truths awaited her in this new territory, and more importantly, would she emerge transformed or shattered by the experience? Tomorrow would mark the beginning of an uncertain path, a redefined destiny stretching before her with both promise and peril. And as she lay awake, contemplating her next move, the reality struck. This journey was just beginning. What secrets were locked away? And was she ready to fight for the life she had only dared to dream of? As dawn broke, casting soft light into her small apartment, Sarah awoke with a jolt, the previous night's revelations still fresh and disorienting. She sat up in bed, determination coursing through her veins like a charged current. Today was not just another day. It was the beginning of a profound transformation. Her heart raced with both excitement and trepidation, the weight of her decisions heavy upon her shoulders. She glanced at her phone, contemplating her next move. Until last night, her existence had been defined by routine work as a waitress, mingling with regulars, and daydreaming about some alternate life. Now, an intricate web of connections awaited her, beaming with opportunities, challenges, and perhaps answers that she desperately sought. With a swift breath, she decided to tackle the day head-on. After hurriedly getting ready, she settled at a small cafe, the aroma of coffee heavy in the air, drowning her in bittersweet nostalgia. Instead of mindlessly serving others, she envisioned a world where she called the shots. How paradoxical that she had been delivered this legacy, yet felt so unprepared. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, Sarah could feel a latent ember of confidence glowing within her. As she sipped her coffee, she thought of her father, a man shrouded in ambiguity and expectation. The thought of confronting him sent a tremor through her, but it also ignited a resolve that she couldn't ignore. Seeking clarity about her heritage demanded courage, and she was ready to embrace the turmoil that came with it. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Navigating them will require more than you might be prepared for. What did that mean? She needed to prepare herself. This was about more than facing her father. It was a full-scale reimagining of her life, her goals, and her values. Would wealth and family ties come at the price of her independence? her fledgling identity? Determined to define her own narrative, she pulled out a notepad she always carried. On one page she wrote, "Identify my strengths." As a waitress, she had mastered multitasking, handling conflicts, and working under pressure. She added communication skills, recognizing how she could convey warmth and approachability to customers. Strategic thinker, she noted, realizing that every down moment was spent mulling over plans, future paths, and how she could defy the expectations placed on her. Before she could dive deeper into her reflections, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her mother, a reminder that they had set a time for a follow-up conversation. This wouldn't be an ordinary chat. It would be the foundation where Sarah began to stand tall amidst a newfound legacy. Bolstered by purpose, she decided she would approach the meeting strategically. This would require more than just emotional grit. She needed to gather information, research her father, his business endeavors, and any potential allies or rivals. Knowledge was power, she reminded herself. The more prepared she was, the more control she could exert in this swirling chaos of family ties. As she wrapped up her coffee and set the notepad aside, Sarah felt a surge of clarity wash over her. She could no longer view herself as a surface-level waitress. She was a force of potential heir ready to embrace both the darkness and the light of her heritage. Emerging from the cafe, she caught a glimpse of herself in the shop window, a woman clad in self-doubt, transforming into someone who could command respect and authority. Each step away from the cafe solidified that she was entering an uncharted territory with a fierce determination. What lay in store was not just an encounter with her father, but an amalgamation of choices that would confront her moral standing, tests of her character, and hidden aspirations being illuminated like never before. The excitement thrums within her, and just as she rounded the corner, a thought struck: was she truly ready to confront her past, knowing it could unravel everything she thought she wanted? Tomorrow, she whispered to herself, I will be prepared. Little did she know, each decision would start revealing deeper connections, confronting rivalries, and perhaps even leading her down a path of self-discovery that would change her forever. As she turned toward her apartment, she pondered the future, recognizing it was not just about reclaiming a legacy. It was about defining the new Sarah, one who embraced both her lineage and her individuality. What awaited her in this face-off with her father? Would he welcome her with open arms or cast her into the shadows she had long yearned to escape? Tomorrow held all the answers, if only she could summon the courage to face his response head-on. The sun peeked through Sarah's apartment window, igniting her resolve as she prepared for the day that could redefine her life. She stood in front of the mirror, examining her reflection, acutely aware of the duality within her. Today was not just about confronting her father. It was about merging the two worlds she had inhabited: the waitress who scrapped her way through life, and the lost heiress stepping into her legacy. Determined, she slipped on a tailored blazer she'd purchased weeks before, a symbol of the professional demeanor she intended to embody. She grabbed her notepad, a newly drafted list of goals she aspired to achieve. Today, she would be more than a voice seeking connection. She would represent herself as someone worthy of acknowledgement, someone ready to disrupt the narrative of her past. Arriving at the high-rise where her father's office was located felt surreal. Each step toward the entrance throbbed with anticipation. The lobby, adorned with opulence and stature, set the stage for what lay ahead. She took a moment to breathe, allowing the gravity of her endeavor to sink in. With a final deep breath, she entered. The reception area buzzed with energy, the far-off sounds of business discussions serving as a reminder that she was stepping into a realm designed for power players. She approached the front desk, her heart racing. I'm here to see Mr. Heiress, she proclaimed, each syllable laced with purposeful confidence. As she was escorted to his office, thoughts raced through her mind, her dreams of inclusion, her hopes for acceptance tangled with the fear of rejection. She reached for clarity amidst the swirling emotions, continuously reminding herself of the determination that had guided her thus far. The door swung open, and a man rose to greet her, his expression a mix of surprise and intrigue. You must be Sarah, he said, extending a hand, his grip firm and commanding. I wasn't expecting you today. Mr. Heiress, she responded, steadying her voice. I appreciate you making time for me. They settled into leather chairs, an unspoken tension mingling in the air, thick with years of absence and unasked questions. Sarah felt like a puzzle piece finally placed into a broader picture that had long eluded her grasp. "You have questions," he began, his tone even, yet laced with skepticism. "I assume you found out about your heritage?" "Yes," she replied, meeting his gaze directly. "I've spent years seeking my identity. Today, I want to unpack everything: who you are, what happened, and ultimately, what position I might hold in this family." His brow furrowed, and for the first time, vulnerability flickered through his steeled exterior. "I owe you an explanation, but understand that our past is complicated, and your arrival does change things." "How could it not?" she interjected, her heart thrumming wildly. "And yet, here I am, ready to face it." He leaned back, studying her, and in that silent exchange, she felt echoes of her own resilience reflected in him. "Your mother reached out recently, explaining your findings, but I was hesitant. I didn't know if you would be ready for the truth." "Then let us uncover it together," she urged, the fire in her words defying the nervous tremors within her. "What does this legacy mean for me? What am I walking into?" With that, he began recounting a story laced with intrigue and disappointment, an unexpected partnership marred by mistakes and turmoil. Each revelation added layers of context to the familial distance she had felt her entire life. As he spoke, Sarah found her voice, navigating through moments of hurt and anger, craving communication, and laying claim to the complexity of the situation. Gradually, a connection formed, a bridge built not on expectation, but on the shared understanding of flaws and aspirations. Sarah realized they were not merely separating an heiress from her past. They were reestablishing crucial ties that could empower them both. As their conversation unfolded, she understood that confronting this legacy would not merely be about inheriting wealth, but also about claiming agency over her future. Mr. Heiress leaned forward, sincerity in his tone. "You need to see things as they are. This family could offer you opportunities, but it comes with its own set of expectations and responsibilities. Are you ready for that?" "I'm ready to define my own trajectory," Sarah asserted, her determination now cascading with clarity. "I will blend both my past and present, not in submission, but with the authenticity that defines me." His eyes glimmered with respect, a flicker of pride emerging beneath the weight of their shared history. The walls that once seemed insurmountable began to feel permeable. Communication, understanding, and the potential for reconciliation lay before them. After what felt like an eternity of exchange, they agreed to navigate the complexities together, forging a new path. By acknowledging each other's history, they found common ground. Sarah was no longer just an outsider. She was becoming an intrinsic part of this family, carving out her own identity amid the legacies of those before her. Stepping out of the office later, Sarah felt invigorated, a sense of accomplishment washing over her. The dual paths of Waitress and Heiress had intertwined into a singular journey, a life she was profoundly equipped to handle. Failures and triumphs would blend into lessons, each shaping a stronger, more known self. As the sun set, casting golden hues on the city, Sarah took a moment to reflect. She had faced her past and emerged transformed. She was no longer just seeking acceptance. She was claiming her place in the world not as an heiress or a waitress, but as Sarah, the empowered woman who was ready to own her story. Now she understood. The future was not merely what awaited her, it was a tapestry she would weave, step by step, stitch by stitch. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our journey of transformation. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible journey and how Sarah's choices resonate with you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and find their own paths of growth. Don't wait even one more second to share.